Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Zahab. We are buzzing. As always, still coming in hot from Toronto. My guest today coming in from maybe the crypto capital of the world. However, his company is also buzzing in its sister city, Abu Dhabi. But today we have Stefan Kimmel coming in hot from Dubai. He is the CEO at M2, leading the company's mission to establish a world-class global digital currency investment platform. He has over 25 years of experience in finance, fintech, and digital innovation with a proven track record of delivering products and services to his clients, has held prominent executive roles in the fintech industry, including positions as Chief Commercial Officer at Kraken MENA, Chief Operating Officer at the Commercial Bank of Dubai, and leadership roles at PwC, IBM, and Oliver Wyman Middle East. Now he's running the show at M2, a brand new digital investment platform and exchange. And I had the pleasure of meeting him in Dubai, and now we are meeting virtually for another episode of the Crypto News Pod. Steph, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show. Super excited to see you again.
Pumped to have you on. Now, folks, for the listeners, you guys don't get the pleasure of seeing this lad, but he is literally Bobby Axelrod's twin. Axe, Cap, you guys know the show. Billions, it's one of the best shows to ever come out. Steph, how often do you get this? When I saw you at the conference, I was like, dude, I feel like I'm interviewing Bobby Axelrod here. You must get that all the time, no?
It's a freaking one. Yeah, I get that a lot.
it works well too, because like he's just a village conqueror in the TradFi world, and now we have you conquering villages in the Web3 world. You love to see it.
It's better in the crypto community. I think regulators wouldn't like the character of Bobby Axelrod quite that much, but I'll take it.
I love it. So for the folks who didn't have the pleasure of being at Token 2049 in Dubai, everyone walks in, not a lot of people, because you guys are still relatively new, right? M2 is a relatively new exchange, new digital asset platform. And you walk in and there's M2 logos, M2 verbiage, M2 branding absolutely everywhere. And then you walk in and you literally couldn't not walk past your booth. You guys had probably the nicest booth I've ever seen at a conference. Was that the plan from the get-go? Like, we're just going to put on a show here. We are going to have the sickest booth. We're going to give away sick merch, bucket hats. Heck, you guys were giving away Air Force Ones, custom AF ones. I think you guys were giving away currency as well, spin the wheel. What was the purpose of that? Was it just like, we got to let everyone know we're here. We're going to get the biggest, baddest booth at the conference and let everyone know that M2 ain't messing around?
Kind of is what game plan was. Yes, of course. I mean, as you said, we're still a young exchange, so we wanted to make sure the word gets out. And obviously, the UAE is our home turf. So if we ever wanted to make a mark, this is the place to do it. And obviously, the Token 2049 Dubai edition was a fantastic show. The who is who of crypto was there. A lot of OGs. Yeah. It was an amazing audience, great turnout, despite all the weather challenges we had there on the sidelines, but it was an amazing show. So it was the time for us to really make a bit of a splash. And thanks for the feedback. I'll definitely pass it on to the marketing team. They put in a lot of thought and a lot of work to make it memorable.
I know you're probably not going to give me the answer that I want here, and I'm totally putting you on the spot, so my apologies in advance. But I would love to do, and I might even do this at the next conference Crypto News covers, but go around and literally ask people, like an MTV Crib style, except for booths. How much did your booth cost? You probably can't tell me, Steph, but was that a high 6-figure booth? Was that a 7-figure booth? Like, what did that booth run you guys? Pretty penny, no?
No, the booth itself wasn't even that expensive. I mean, we obviously had some sponsorship arrangements as well, but the booth itself, it was. I think the team did a fantastic job to be smart about it and put a lot of, with the giveaways and the spin the wheel and things that were quite popular. But in terms of the size of the booth and everything else, it wasn't that expensive, actually.
Nice. I mean, walking by it, that looked like a pretty penny. But I love that you guys got that at a fair value. So before we jump into you, let's go right into M2 Exchange. Set the table for us here. Tell us a little bit about M2, what you guys are doing, and your mission in the crypto space.
Yeah, so look, we are an exchange and investment platform. We are originally from Abu Dhabi. That's our home base. We are regulated here in the ADGM. As well as several international licenses, like in the Bahamas. We're currently going after the MiFID license in Europe, registrations in several other countries. And that's part of our positioning is whatever we do, the foundation of everything. We want to get fully regulated, registered, transparent, safe, as the foundation of everything. On top of that, of course, we then have several product lines, so to speak, or types of services. One is the pure trading side of things, aside from spot trading, futures trading with an OTC desk, margin trading, with a few more products about to launch soon that I'm really excited about, but everything around trading, of course. The second aspect is our investment products. The first one is Earn. So that's like a fixed yield type product where users can commit assets to for a certain duration of time and earn yield on it, passive income. So flagship ones are 10% on Bitcoin, 10% on ETH. We got a few more like that. Since your question was how do we make a name for ourselves and get our different, we try to offer market leading yields, and that's actually the combination of this and being fully regulated is kind of the sweet spot. It's high yields on a fully regulated platform. That's really the sweet spot of what we do.
I mean, let's just jump right into the yields. And this is a question I often get asked, Steph, when my friends will be like, so what are you doing with your money nowadays? Blah, blah, blah. And again, I don't have much. I'm not rich. But I often tell them that there are opportunities in crypto to, I mean, I feel like the baseline is almost 8%. Like you can get 8 almost everywhere. You guys are offering 10. And again, you can't really get 8 on Bitcoin or ETH like you guys are giving. It's usually 8 on some type of, lending based stable coin like a DAI or something of the like. But I often get asked, Matt, are you telling me I can get 10% on M2 just by, staking my Bitcoin or staking my ETH? And I say, yeah, it's legit. These guys are regulated. They have government bodies backing them. They've signed partnerships with government bodies. They have hundreds of millions of assets, AUM, and it's 100% legit. And yes, there are a couple bad apples. There's a couple black swans like the FTXs or like the Lunas, but for the most part, it is very safe and very easy to receive double-digit yield, where, as in TradFi, you can't really do that. Like that shit doesn't grow on trees. So my question to you, Steph, is how do you guys offer those kind of yields? Is it just the traditional, you're giving us 100K in Bitcoin. In return, we're going to give you 10K back, and we are going to make more with that 100K Bitcoin than the 10%? Walk us through how you guys can offer such sexy and enticing yields.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the biggest question we get, and then there's a lot of skepticism just based on what happened in the last 2 years. And a lot of people even say, no, this can't be legit. It's your marketing money. It's marketing spend. It's not sustainable. But we obviously try to offer that on a sustainable basis. And so far, for the last 7 months, we did a good job. As you said, it's also fully externally audited. It's regulated. It's supervised. So all of that is real and unprovable. The way we do it is simple. On Bitcoin specifically, there's 2-3 avenues we use to create the yield. One is we are working closely with a Bitcoin miner. Actually, we are partially owned by one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world, a company called Phoenix. They also publicly listed here in the UAE. So again, their numbers are public and audited, so that's all fully transparent. And that's one avenue. So through Bitcoin mining. Of course, that has a high yield, but it's not very liquid because it's infrastructure. So we only use that to a certain percentage. The second avenue is we also have a lending product, so fully collateralized loans. So that's a second avenue where we also generate some of the yields that we then use for the earn plans. And the third one is we have our in-house wealth management or asset management team that uses delta neutral strategies, market making strategies, and other elements to generate those yields with the assets that are submitted to the earn plans. And that in combination very comfortably generates the yields we're looking to give back to our customers.
Yeah, well said. Again, though, it's still crazy how TradFi can't really, put their fingers on that or grasp that because they haven't seen it, Like they haven't seen the other platforms back in the day. Like, heck, I mean, I was playing DeFi Kingdoms in 2021. I was getting 600%. I'd wake up every day and it was like, holy crap, And obviously DeFi Kingdoms tanked and it's worth nothing now. But like there were opportunities, we'll call it illegitimate opportunities to really grab some crazy yield. But if you have a bunch of money, like if you're a boomer perhaps, or even someone my age, and you're sitting on a couple mil, it's like, dude, you can put a good chunk of that into M2, and with Bitcoin or ETH, the currency that probably isn't going to drop too much. Yes, it's more volatile than TradFi assets, but it's probably not going to go to zero. And you can get 10 ticks. Like that's pretty wild. How do we continue to onboard normies, and how do we continue to sort of let them know that the old narrative of, this is too good to be true is actually legit? How can we do that? How can we really sort of move that needle?
Funny enough, TradFi is helping a lot, and especially BlackRock and Goldman and Fidelity and all the guys that are launching ETFs now are the biggest promoters now for the credibility of the space. Because if without crypto, people, we can say all day long that we're safe and we're great and it's there for the long run, but nobody believed it up until recently. And also, I mean, US politics, things are getting approved. Goldman is running ads, or BlackRock is running ads for Bitcoin ETFs on national TV. Public media is picking up. It's an election. It's a major election topic in the US right now, and I think that gives it more credibility than anything else. And people now see, if you look at it over a 1 year period, a 3 year period, a 10 year period, Bitcoin outperforms any other asset class. It's better than gold, better than the Nasdaq, than S&P 500, better than other commodities. You can compare that to anything else, and it just outperforms it in the long run. I think the key is, don't put it in, and that's not financial advice, of course. Don't put money in crypto that you need tomorrow to pay back your mortgage or for your kids' education or something like that. Nothing you need in the short term. Use money that you can afford to not need in the long run or for a certain period of time. But if you have a 6, 9, 12 month timeline or several year time horizon, it's a pretty stunning asset class.
Yeah, well said there. Heck, you just brought up the whole election thing. Obviously, I need to. It's non-negotiable. I must lurk all of my guests' Twitter before jumping on. You also posted something that I didn't post. I mean, I don't post much, but definitely saw it. And that was Donald Trump, who pretty much gave the green light. Like, hey, if I get elected, crypto's going to be moving and grooving. And I always ask myself and people like yourself, Steph, what percentage of the US population is sort of a single issue voter, i.e. in crypto? I don't know, maybe 1%, maybe 2%, 3, 4, 5, probably maximum 5. But how can electorates like the Don, like President Trump, how can they help move the needle besides just saying, hey, we're going to do this? Is it really similar to the UAE with Dubai and of course Abu Dhabi, where they are not just being like, hey, come here and build. They are literally working with world-class exchanges like yourself to set really clear regulations, rules in place to make shit happen. Outside of UAE, what can other country leaders and electorates do to make crypto more accessible to the mainstream people?
Yeah, I think the absolute key, you're right, is setting clear rules to enable a few things. A is to be clear about what is allowed and what is not allowed. B, how can we offer it, and how can we assure protection of the users? And that goes both ways. How do we protect those who want to offer those services, to be clear on them, what they can do, what they can't do? Simple as that. And that also gives the assurance to investors and users to know whoever has that license is approved. It gets usually supervised and follows clear rules and guidelines, so the assets are safe. If that's that clarity, those rules are clearly there and communicated, I think that's the biggest progress we can make. And that's part of why the UAE is where it is today. It's got the oldest written regulation in the world in ADGM. That's where we housed. That's why it's super recognized now and appreciated globally. But we also got MiCA now in Europe. We got Singapore. We got Hong Kong. We got other jurisdictions that following suit. And I think the US finally come around with Fit 21 and some of the votes recently to also go down that path in that direction. And I think that's really going to change the game.
I'd love if you could explain sort of the main differences of status, the main differences in regard to the status of crypto adoption in UAE and US. I know obviously you guys are based in the UAE, which just like you said, has the oldest regulations, very open arms. They want to get shit done. They want to move quick as well, which is paramount to success in all business, but even more so in Web3. But how could you compare sort of the regulatory landscape and the regulatory status of crypto in regards to UAE versus the USA?
Yeah, it's almost on the opposite scales of the spectrum, right? The UAE has very old written regulation, clear rules. We know exactly what's allowed, what's not allowed. And that's why it's easy for service providers to embrace it, for banks to partner, for institutional investors to put money in it, and of course for service providers to offer their services. It's got everything you want to have, including a supportive government and a supportive infrastructure all around it. US is just about the opposite. I mean, the guys had to figure out what the regulation might be. Got money transmitter licenses and all sorts of other licenses. that and try to emulate what the future regulation might look like in terms of how they did AML and KYC. But they didn't get a lot of, or any institutional money for that matter on the exchanges up until recently, because it was just not clear about, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And when in doubt, it was a lot of, including the SEC, there was a lot of outspoken opponents to crypto who said it's illegal and it's not allowed. So therefore, it was hard to build a business over there in the US, and hopefully that's changing now.
So for exchanges like you guys, not like some, tier 2, 3, 4 exchange, an actual world-class exchange with tons of funding, really good people on the cap table, just a myriad of folks in different industries coming in, especially the vets in the crypto space, to really form this good, legitimate, safe company like M2. Is it even on the agenda? Like, is it like, hey, we're going to try to move into the US, or is it just like it's not worth it until they fix the regulatory nonsense?
Look, the US is still the largest capital market in the world by a huge margin. So in the long run, we'd absolutely love to be there. In the short term, as long as the regulation is not clear, we're definitely not touching it. We'd love to, but we can't, because you just end up getting sued. And that's pretty much the sentiment to anybody I talk to in crypto. Is everybody says, we offer our services pretty much anywhere else but in the US, because it's you get sued and it's going to cost you. It's a risk, a regulatory risk nobody wants to take until that clarity is there.
100%. And the UAE, I'm sure you guys had a couple different jurisdictions, couple different cities, countries in the world to build a world-class exchange. You chose the UAE in doing the research. You chose that because you think it's a springboard in building an exchange with global reach. I'd love if you could walk us through, if we were a fly on the wall in some of those boardrooms, the conversations, what happened. Was it UAE all the time, 100% from the get-go? Were there other potential locations to set up camp and to set up HQ? I'd love if you could walk us through that whole process and why you think the UAE is the best place to set up camp for a world-class global crypto exchange.
So it was a combination of basically our founders and investors are all from the UAE, so it's a home base. So that was a natural starting point. But then also when you scan, basically when we started 2.5 years ago, and the initial discussions and the thought process, of course we looked at jurisdictions globally, and again it was clear back then already that this is bound to be the strongest, one of the strongest capitals for crypto globally, because of the public sector support, the government support, because of the regulations being in place, because of the tax situation. By the way, that's another big factor of why so many crypto projects move to the UAE and live here. Yeah. It just has a lot of things going for it, and it was a very easy decision to stay here and then branch out from here.
Yeah, well said. I've never been to Abu Dhabi. What's Abu Dhabi like compared to Dubai? For those who perhaps, might want to work for M2 or just explore the space, because I've never been.
So Abu Dhabi is obviously the capital. And Abu Dhabi is, compared to Dubai, Dubai is a bit, how shall I say that, is a bit more well-known internationally for its tourism. It's a bit livelier. Also a lot more traffic now since there's a lot of people who moved here over the last 3 years or 3 years. Abu Dhabi is a little bit quieter, and it's a government capital, and also a lovely place. It's got fantastic restaurants, fantastic schooling, shopping malls, great beaches. There's a lot of fantastic things to say. I think if you like a bit more action and nightlife, probably Dubai is the better place. If you like it a bit quieter and high quality of life, probably Abu Dhabi is the preferred place.
I love it. Steph, you're on a roll here, mate, but we need to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. And when we get back, we are going to keep buzzing on everything M2, get into a little bit of Steph's past before he joined M2, and of course, some market trends, some M2 news, and some long-term goals for M2 as well. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. Prime XBT offers a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. The promo code is CryptoNews50. That is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Steph. I want to jump into some market trends here. crazy time. Currently, June 2024. A lot of the narratives from the last bull market are completely kaput. I mean, we're not going to get into it. We don't want to put anyone down. But we've seen a significant amount of volatility in a lot of narratives in which people thought were going to be the catalyst to onboard folks to Web3, and that clearly hasn't been the thing. As the leader of a global exchange, you and your team must have a really good idea, a good pulse of future trends that will shape the future of the crypto industry. I'd love if you could tell us what you and your team think those are present day.
One of the biggest trends actually is not even a new technology, something crazy and exciting. It's as boring as institutional investors and a broad adoption of people coming onto crypto. So far, realistically, it's been quite a niche play of basically an audience that didn't mind risk, or that had an ethos for DeFi and crypto per se, that drove most of the action. And that's also part of why it was so considered so speculative and why it was so volatile. I think what we see now is, with the regulation being there, and regulation is actually one of the big trends of this wave of crypto now, we see mass adoption. We see people who wouldn't have invested a couple of years back now are investing. We see institutions coming on board, and that will completely, that's a magnitude changer to market caps, to trading volumes, to the, also stability of the markets in the long run. So I think that's a huge trend. The other, I think, trend that seems to be exciting is to think about real-world assets. And of course, so far that's a very hyped topic. We haven't seen a lot of action, of actual implementation on exchanges. But I think the opportunity of taking other assets that are not just meme coins, as exciting as they are, but other assets, and put them on exchange and figure out a way to tokenize that, to provide reliable price feeds, will be a complete game changer and a very, very important use case for the technology. Because that's another question we get asked a lot, right? What's the use case for crypto other than speculation? I think real world assets is a major game changer in that space.
Yeah, it's so true. My only thing, Steph, with the whole RWA narrative at the moment, how far away are we? Because it's just like, I often find without a need, you know what I mean? Like, why did NFTs blow up in 2021? Because we had nothing to do. We were, being purebred degenerates on our computers. It was one of the most fun forms of gambling myself and my peers and my friends have ever experienced. But what will sort of be that need to tokenize RWAs? Like, why tokenize a house? Why tokenize, I'm looking at the lake right now in Toronto, a boat? Tokenizing things like treasuries, which we've pretty much already done, because you can't even really feel a treasury. I still remember my grandpa used to work for Caterpillar Equipment, massive industrial company in North America, global for that matter. He had his first ever share of Caterpillar in his office, at his house. And I remember seeing that. And then when I owned stock, TD Bank kind of thing, I'm a TD guy. Yeah, I've never felt anything. So for that, I get it, right? But like for actual physical assets, when do you think the whole RWA narrative is actually going to pop off and we're truly going to see assets get tokenized on the blockchain?
I mean, to answer the second part of your question, why is it interesting? Is in my mind, it's because it gives the standard retail investor the opportunity to invest into things that they find interesting, but they can't usually invest in. I'll give you an example. Right over there is the Burj Khalifa, the largest building in the world, the tallest building in the world. Wouldn't it be cool if that gets tokenized and fractionalized, and you could buy one token of the Burj Al Arab? Sorry, that's another one. There's another good example of the Burj Khalifa or of Dubai Mall. I'm just looking at the buildings here next door. Or the Eiffel Tower for that matter, or whatever other. I mean, that's obviously flashy examples, but it might be an airplane. It might be whatever cool other easily priceable asset you have, giving people to invest in that and have a share in that they usually have absolutely no access to. I think that's extremely interesting.
Yeah, you're out bang on there. The fractionalization part is huge. You have spoke upon the impact of institutional investors and the big boys, TradFi, many times in our quick little pod here. We have some huge news. The potential ETH ETF. It's looking good. It's crazy how the sentiment shifted. A month ago, everyone was like, there is a 1% chance it's going to happen. Then out of nowhere, it's just like, hey, folks, fill your docs, send them over. The train has left the station. I think it's going to happen. I feel like you think it's going to happen. What kind of impact will this have? Are we going to see the sort of exact same as Bitcoin, where it's like tons of ads, tons of sort of qualitative, but not so much quant? Because when the Bitcoin ETF came out, price didn't even go up. I think the day it came out, it actually went down. I think it dropped like 3 or 4 ticks. Obviously, it's been up since. And then ETH has skyrocketed, I think 20% since the news broke. But what kind of impact are we going to see if and when the ETH ETF gets approved?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there will be an impact. I think it'll be more of a slower grind rather than an insane peak like we've seen it in Bitcoin. Simply also because of the reason Bitcoin still is the most known asset. It's easily explainable to people with the digital gold. I think Ethereum is still looking for a cool slogan that's as easy and easy to communicate.
Yeah. Digital gas. Some people call it digital, the digital gas thing sort of works.
Yeah, there's whole podcasts now on what's the slogan, right? I mean, it's an interesting topic, but still, I mean, Ethereum obviously by size is smaller than Bitcoin, and to the space of to institutional investors might be somewhat hard to sell, but it will be sold and will be understood. It just takes a bit longer. That's why I think it's more like a slower grind than anything else. But I think what it really did more than anything else is, again, from a regulatory perspective, give it the credibility, because there was a lot of people who thought Bitcoin is one of a kind, it's proof of work, it doesn't have any other utility, that's why it's a commodity, whereas all the others might be securities. Now, there's evidence that Ethereum is a commodity as well. And that opens up the space for Solana, Cardano, for all the others to come online. So I think the fantasy that's in there is almost bigger than the actual ETF itself. Also, just the broader acceptance of the crypto industry above and beyond only Bitcoin as the flagship. It's now clear that other things are also accepted and investable as assets. And I think that's really a huge part of the story to that.
I love that point you brought up. I've been beating this drum. If and when the ETH ETF gets approved, I think about the Solana ETF. I mean, I'm not a Cardano guy, excuse me, and then I think of, okay, well, look at traditional TradFi, where it's like you're not even so much investing in singular companies. It's almost baskets, right? So then we'll have, like, instead of a SPY, maybe we'll have just a dead ass general crypto ETF, where it's like this ETF gives you exposure to Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, whatever, insert whatever of the top 100 coins in the market. Is that sort of something that you could see happening as well? Because that excites the shit out of me. Because then it's like people don't need to ask questions. Oh, if I invest in the ETH ETF, I might be missing out on the upside of the Bitcoin ETF. But like if there's just a full-on crypto ETF with all the best coins, I mean, seems like a pretty darn good place to park your money and take some risk in the crypto industry.
Yeah, I think now that Pandora's box is opened, it's going to get in all directions. You're going to have baskets, you're going to have leveraged ones, you're going to have short ETFs on the future side. People are going to get creative because it's a hot asset. A lot of interest from the institutional side to invest in it, and then of course the providers of it will be getting creative. 100%.
Yeah, no, good point. Steph, we're getting a little tight for time here. A couple more questions and we will wrap up. You got to give us some news. Let us break some news on the Crypto News pod here. What do you guys have popping off over the next couple weeks, months, years? Just give us some news before we let you go.
We get a super exciting roadmap. We're starting the loans on platform next month. We'll have crypto payment cards. We'll have some new trading tools that I'll break in detail shortly. Our fiat rails are getting enhanced. There's more coming on. Some interesting partnerships with banks on that front. Super exciting.
I love it. And last question, you guys are very touched on everything regulatory. What under the radar or unexpected country will pop off as not a crypto behemoth like a UAE or Singapore or something of the like, but what country will be a big player in the crypto space that not a lot of people think would have happened?
I'm not sure there'd be anyone that's unexpected, because typically a regulation takes years of public debate and political action. So I don't see any country just unexpectedly popping out of nowhere. No, it's pretty much the known entities that I see. I mean, and again, the biggest change to me is the US, because it is the biggest capital market. Everybody wants to play there, and that coming around is to me is the biggest news of the year.
So hopefully US gets more involved, has better regulatory stuff, and it's just going to be the current big boys, the UAEs, the maybe Saudi and Riyadh if they keep going, and then obviously Singapore, Liechtenstein, It's just the usuals. Those sort of guys are going to run the show and everyone's going to be playing catch up. Is that how you see it playing out?
Most likely, yeah.
Interesting. Hey, I'm sitting here in Toronto right now. I would love if Justin Trudeau was listening to this. He definitely doesn't listen to the pod. I've also chirped him a good amount of times on this. He's definitely not my biggest fan, nor am I his biggest fan, but I wish my beautiful country would open up its doors to the lovely world of Web3 as well. But that's just a pipe dream. That definitely ain't going to happen. However, we did at Consensus last week. We did hear the news. Consensus is coming to Toronto next year, which was wild to me. I walked into Consensus. I saw a big City of Toronto booth. Like, why the hell is my city at Consensus? And then they break the news. Why is Consensus coming to a city that hates crypto? I don't know. It's a beautiful city. It's great for conferences. It has all the bells and whistles you need to throw a huge conference. But come on, folks, let's get some crypto in Canada. Give Steph a call, give his team a call, talk with the UAE regulators. They'll show you how to develop the framework, and we'll go from there. But hey, I'm ripping off the rails right now. Steph, really appreciate you coming on. It was a blast meeting you in person, and this was a blast as well. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and M2 online and on socials?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the easiest, we obviously, our website is m2.com. We are M2 Exchange on Twitter. I'm Stefan at M2. It's all the usual suspects.
The usual suspects. Folks, as always, we will include everything in the show notes as well. Steph, appreciate your time, my friend. Can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to see you again. And this time we'll have to have a couple of bevies and a nice din in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi. Maybe the first time I meet you will be or the first time in Abu Dhabi will be with you. But appreciate your time and looking forward to the next one.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for having me. It was really, really enjoyed it.
Folks, what an episode with Stefan Kimmel, CEO of M2. A brand new exchange popping off. Folks, if you guys are looking at a new exchange, obviously do go check them out. A fully regulated, world-class digital asset platform. Huge shout out to Steph and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys so much. Thank you for everything. Eustace, you are the man. Appreciate you as always. And back to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.